What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Horror Fiend. I am Jeff,
I'm Bethany.
and our guest today that I have been talking about for the past 2 weeks is Mr. David Howard Thornton. And welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you very much for having me. Happy to be here.
I thank you for accepting. Like we were both excited. Like you could ask her. I have not shut up about this since like, being like a little kid in the candy store.
I
So
love.
very excited.
Thank you. Thank
Yes,
you.
definitely geeking out over here. And hopefully, I don't say anything stupid on camera.
Ah, I say stupid stuff all the time. You just could roll with the punches.
Oh, there we go. There we go.
So first and foremost, the first thing I want to ask you, is just how are you doing during all of this crap? Like, how's everything going?
I've managed pretty well. I live here in New York City, so I was in the epicenter of the whole entire mess at the start of it. So that was kind of crazy at first because I saw a total difference in my city, where especially the neighborhood I live in Queens is the big party central spot, and going out at night and it's dead. There's not. It's just like, whoa, what happened? And or going to Times Square and it's dead in the summertime when it's usually one of the busiest times of the year. It's very strange, but we're faring as well as we can here. It's just a little bit tough, but we'll all get through this. I saw Jerry Seinfeld's recent post about it's like, yeah, we're New Yorkers, we'll tough it out. That's how we all have to look about this. Nationwide and worldwide, really. It's like, yeah, we're this is what humans do. We face hard times and we overcome them.
I
You
can,
have to.
Yeah.
You can't
Yeah.
just take you down. You're like, okay, yeah, we're taking a hit here, but you know what? We're going to come back fighting, and we'll get back on top again.
yep, I agree with you. It's definitely been trying like for everybody, but that's the kind of outlook you have to have for it. You have
Yeah,
to have like that kind of a look on things. Is like it has to get better.
yeah.
It's going to get better at some point. It's just
The
it
It's
is
balance,
what
just
it
a matter of
yeah.
time.
The universe balances itself out. That's how I look at it. It's like you have we're having our bad period right now. We'll have a really great period to balance that out eventually. So we'll be good.
Well, I
well, I mean,
actually had a question that involves that with the filming aspect of it. How has, with all of the COVID stuff, how has filming been going and what
Oh,
differences are there?
yeah, that was a real pisser there because we were so close to being finished. I think we had maybe 2 or 3 weeks left of filming,
Oh,
in
man.
total, and that was like, oh, come on, because we started filming in October and this was March, and so it's like, oh, you got to be kidding. I think we could have, if we had just stayed where we were, because we're upstate New York in the middle of Amish country, which is in the middle of nowhere. So I think maybe they've had like maybe a handful of cases, period, up in there that the whole entire time. But so we could have probably stuck it out and just pushed through and filmed. But the good thing is we had most of the film already in the can. So and we filmed probably the most complicated scene in the whole entire film the week before we went to lockdown. That was the scene we were so stressed out about filming. It's the one that we raised a lot of money for because it's just so many technical elements that go into it, a lot of stunt work and stuff like that. And we got it filmed, and it's awesome. I've seen a cut of it, and I'm like, yeah. So the hard part's over. I think we've come back here or there when we could just to
Mhm.
film a few little inserts and stuff like that. I'm going to be filming now that we can really start filming again here in New York. I'm going to be filming the final kill scene that I need to film mid-September. So
Okay.
the only thing that sucks is like we have to use basically a bare bones crew right now. We can't have the whole entire production crew like we usually have because all the restrictions that SAG has and stuff like that. So, but we've made it work for ourselves, and it's also given Damien time to actually flesh out some of these kill scenes, which is kind of cool. So he's had more time to build the prosthetics and add more to it than was originally written in the script. So
Was able to be a lot more creative with it because he had the additional time. That's
yeah,
awesome.
and that's what's actually been kind of cool about this whole virus, not just with us, but just all around. It's given people a lot of time to be creative and to come up with new concepts and ideas. There have been films that have been filmed purely in lockdown, over Skype and Zoom and stuff like that. If people, is, you know, that's the beauty of this. It's like, you know, you face this kind of adversity, and you know the creative types thrive in that kind of environment. They come up with new ways to adapt. It's like, so it's like this is one of those few, yeah, you know, you're not getting the big Hollywood films right now because of this, but you know it's going to come back. And it's, and I look at like how it was even during the Great Depression. The film industry was one of the few businesses that actually was able to do okay, because that was still a demand there for it. There's people always needed an escape. You know, like the art's always been around. You know, since back in the caveman periods, they found, you know, the drawings that was done to entertain. You know, it's like they found ways to use the artwork with the flames when they're flickering to create movement. So people, you know, human beings have always striven for a way to entertain themselves, and so the arts will always be there, no matter what. We'll always adapt and find ways to, you know, create for everybody and to entertain people.
Well, I did find it fascinating that it was like the whole world was forced to slow down.
Yeah.
You know, because society, especially in the United States, is constantly be productive, be busy, and you're doing 20 things at once, have to learn how to multitask. And I mean, even with children, they have to learn this. And all of a sudden it was just like a dead stop. And so it was fascinating how much creativity did come from that. It started to shine.
It really did. That's what's been really cool about it. It's like people have been able to take like a step back for a second to breathe, and like, huh, I wonder. You know, I think this has probably inspired some people to get more involved in the arts and, or you know, the creative process, because they've been have that opportunity when they haven't been going to work. Like, well, what can I do to entertain myself, or you know, keep myself sane right now? I was like, well, you know, let's film some TikTok videos or something like that, and that's what's been going on.
So it seems that like this time, like we've talked about it before with this, I don't want to say this era right now, but like this current state of emergency, this situation that we're in this year, everybody's been using outlets now. Like everybody started, like I started using Skillshare, and I started like learning how to like do video editing and things like that. And people are like using TikTok, or using all these other things, and like people are learning more, which that's a good
Right.
thing. You know, they're doing it on their own free will instead of, you know, being forced to, like school and all that. Like, well, that's mandatory, but like
Yes.
now everybody's actually sitting there and wanting to like learn, like get into the arts, like get into filming, get into editing. Like I've seen so much stuff, and that's the one thing. Like if I could find any positive out of this year so far, it's that. It's seeing
Yes.
everybody getting creative all of a sudden. You know, using this time that they have, this free time, to get creative and to do these awesome things. And I love that. I think that's amazing.
Oh, I do too. I'm very interested to see what all is going to come out of it. You know, once we get to like next year when films are being released again, it's like what have people been creating in this time?
Oh yeah. Speaking of the arts, one of the questions I do want to ask you is, so what got you into acting? What was your inspiration for wanting to be an actor, and an awesome one at that?
Oh, thank you. Well, I basically came out of the womb acting. My parents were heavily involved with like the church theater when I was growing up, and I found I kind of had a knack for it back then. I was always kind of a little bit of a goofball, but I was very shy for a long period there because I was bullied a lot growing up, and especially when I went to middle school, because I went to a brand new school where no one knew me, and I was shorter than everybody else because I was a late bloomer. I was skinny, had glasses, braces, you know, high pitched voice. So I was a voice soprano in the choir. So easy target in Alabama where everybody plays sports, and I was not too great at sports. I was more the artistic type, and I was always so goofy and coming up with weird characters and stuff like that at home. And my mom approached me and she's like, "Have your classmates ever seen this side of you at school?" I'm like, "No, I've never really had an opportunity to really show them this side of me. They always want me to shut up, and or, you know, they just push me into lockers or whatever anytime I try to talk." Or, you know, I was just like, "Well, your choral program's doing a production of Mickey's Christmas Carol this year. Why don't you audition for that? I think you would be great for that. I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll do that. And so I did. I got the role of Bob Cratchit slash Mickey Mouse in it, and I had fun with that. And we're doing the show in front of the whole entire school, all the parents and everything. And everything started going wrong on stage. Like our set fell down on top of Scrooge and I at one point. It was cardboard, thank God. It wasn't like a full like plywood set that just went flap right on top of us. I think I even like turned to him at that point. And I just went, "Oh, Mr. Scrooge, I think we have rats." There's another part in the Cratchit family scene where like our table broke and it caused our little chicken to go flying over the audience, and I made some fast food reference, or I just started instead of stopping, I just started cracking jokes, and I just basically made it into a comedy routine on the spot and just started improvising, and everybody was laughing, and for the first time at that school, people were laughing with me instead of at me. I had the power for once, and I was like, this is amazing. I was bringing joy to people, and I was like, I love this feeling. I want more of this. And I told my mom that. I'm like, I want to experience more of this. She's like, well, why don't you start getting involved with the local community theater? And I did, and it took me a few auditions, but I finally got cast in some of those, and it just snowballed from there. I discovered that was really what my calling in life was. I mean, I actually have a degree in elementary education, though, because I was trying to be practical and pragmatic with my life. And I was in while I was in college, my mom passed away from cancer. And we
I'm
had
sorry.
oh, that's why I am where I am, though, because she had a conversation with me right before she passed away. And she's like, don't do what you think you have to do with your life. Do what you want to do with your life. Life is too short not to go out there and do what makes you happy. And that, she didn't want to flat out tell me, don't go into teaching. Don't follow my path. She's like, follow your path. And it took me about a year, and I was in my internship in the schools, and I was going through a lot of other stuff because I was going a downward spiral. Like that semester when I went back, my grandmother died, my dog died, a friend of mine committed suicide, and my sister married a homeless man. So just like a whole lot of what the heck is going on. So I was very just like my brain was all over the place. I was extremely depressed. And I had that epiphany when I was reading stories to my children in the classroom. I was doing all little funny little voices with it, and they were laughing and having fun. And I discovered, I was like, man, I get more fulfillment and joy out of entertaining my students than teaching them. I'm like, this is what I'm actually meant to do. This is what fulfills me in life. This is what I want to do. I don't want to be a teacher anymore. I want to be an entertainer. And I talked to my dad, who was a NASA engineer, so I was expecting the engineer response to everything, like, well, you put all this time and effort, and this is a stable career path. This is what you need to do. I was expecting that speech, and he's like, oh no, your mom and I always thought that you should have been an actor, but we didn't want to tell you what to do with your life. We want you to discover it for yourself. It's like, I totally fully support you. Finish up your degree, take a year off, but then finish up your degree, and then go do what you want to do. And I was like, oh my God, really? I was like, I had a whole speech prepared and everything. It was a rousing speech. I was going to win you over, and you're just like, oh, good, go do it. I'm like, oh, wow. And he's always been supportive of me ever since. And I mean, it took me 13 years to get where I am now, but it's just like that was my drive. This is something I have always been passionate about doing. I love to entertain people. I love to make people laugh. And I just stuck with it.
So you love to make people laugh. So what a huge transition it is to go into a horror film to make people, scared. So
Yeah.
how was that transition for you? Did you find that transition difficult, or did you have just as much fun doing horror as you would comedy?
A little bit of both, because I also love to scare the crap out of people. I have a tendency to do that. I've been doing that since I was a kid. My mom and I always had competitions with each other, trying to scare each other throughout the house. It was like ongoing competition. You never knew when it was going to happen. And then I would do it to my roommate in college, and find creative ways to scare him. Like one time I hid under his desk for 3 hours while he was studying. I was in there for a long haul, and I just grab his leg and start snarling like this beast. Scared the shit out of him.
Well, see, that's commitment right there.
Yeah. So
3 hours, that's commitment.
I believe in committing to the scare. Another one of my roommates here in New York, he had a fear of zombies, and I hid in our bathtub. I told him I was going out with my girlfriend when he was going out with his girlfriend that night, and I lied. I hid in our bathroom because I didn't know when he was going to be home. I camped out there. I put zombie makeup on, and I waited for him to go to the bathroom when he came home. And when he's washing his hands, I pulled back the curtain. I'm scared. I was in there probably like 3 hours waiting for him to come back there. So it was just like, so I commit to the scare. So it's like that's something I love to do. I love to scare people as well. So it's like it was actually able to combine two of my loves. I love to make people laugh. I love to scare people, and art kind of does both.
That's true. We a few months ago we did a slasher of the month, and you were a slasher of the month. I remember telling you about it. And one of the things I told her, I was like, like I watched it, the Skarsgård version and the Curry version, and those like they're still just clowns to me. But then I watched Terrifier for the first time, and it was one of my friends who came and was like, "Dude, you got to check this movie out." Mm-hmm. And I watched it, and like no pun intended, but like I was terrified for parts of that movie. Like I was like, "Holy crap!" Like I was actually getting the creeps from Art the Clown, and like there's parts where I laughed my ass off too, and I was like, "Wow, like this is what I've been waiting for." Not taking anything away from like the Currys or the Skarsgårds or anything, they do great in their own right, but like just your portrayal of Art was just it was mind blowing. And I seen All Hallows Eve, and I saw how like Mike Gianelli, he's awesome. He did a great job himself, but like that role when you took hold of it. It just did something, man. Like it added a level of creepiness and humor at the same time, and like I love it. Like I absolutely love it. And bravo, just I have to say it. I have to say bravo, man, because
thank you.
It takes a lot to even freak me out.
and we had talked about it then, but you creeped me out too. And it's the first clown movie that I was like, okay, that's creepy. That is just that's creepy. The stare scenes. Yeah. Like when you do where you're just staring and you're like frozen and just staring, like that creeps me out. Like I could see you at my window just staring at me. It creeps me out. So it was a job well done.
Thank you.
Like and, we're horror fans, so it's not very easy to creep us out.
Right?
Well, I hope I can still do it in part 2 then.
Speaking of Mike Gianelli and all that, so how did that happen? Like, how did you wind up getting the role for Art the Clown? Can you walk us through that process, the transition through it?
Yeah. Well, with Mike, what I understand from Damien is like Mike was just one of Damien's friends. He wasn't really a professional actor or anything like that, and he wanted to do other things with his life. I know Damien approached him originally to play Art again. He's like, no, I don't want to do all the makeup again, and I want to do other things. So it's so Damien had to find someone else to take over the role, and so he had posted a casting notice on Actors Access, and I saw this notice. I had seen All Hallows Eve, so I was already familiar with the character, and I saw they were casting for Art. I'm like, wait a minute, oh my god! And they're looking for a tall, skinny guy. I'm like, what? That has clowning or physical comedy experience. I'm like, huh. To play Art. I'm like, oh my god, this is perfect for me. And I'm like, yes. So I, had my agent submit me. I got to the audition, and it was the craziest audition I ever had because I'm used to getting a script when I go in for an audition, or they have sides there for me, and they didn't have either. I didn't get any script. I didn't have sides there in the room, and I started to freak out. I'm like, because this was my first feature film audition. I'm like, oh no. So they called me in the room, and I'm like, I am so sorry. I never got a script. Can I get one, and I can just take a few minutes just to look over it, and I can come back and give you something, whatever you need. They're like, oh, no, you don't need a script. Art doesn't talk. And I'm like, oh okay. So what do you want me to do then? And they're like, well, just can you come up with a scene where you decapitate a guy and you're really happy about doing it? I'm like, okay, cool. Can I have a few seconds to think over it? And he's like, no, we just want to see what you can come up with on the fly. I'm like, okay, cool. And I don't know where it came from. I just, like, I sometimes can just get in the zone, and whatever happens, happens. I just let my instincts take over, and I just came with this scene where I just cartoonishly snuck up behind my victim, knocked him out, and my phone's talking to me all of a sudden. But I knocked him out, and I take out a hacksaw and I start off his head, pick it up, taste it, don't like the taste of it, so I'm like, okay, well, I'll take out a salt shaker and season it some, and taste it again, give it a thumbs up, kind of bathe in the blood, do a little happy dance, and skipped out on my merry way. And that's what gave me the role. They, like, Damien and Phil were just sitting there just cracking up. They're like, can you come in for a makeup test? I'm like, yeah, sure. Because I was used to doing really extensive makeup jobs because I did a lot of children's theater growing up, playing all these kind of creatures and stuff like that. So I was used to sitting in a makeup chair for a while. So I was like, yeah, sure. And that was like one of the few times where I've been in an audition and basically walked out of the room knowing I had the part. So that's like every actor's dream. Because usually it's like you hear like weeks later, you're like, I doubt if I got it, and then they're like, oh yeah, you got it. I'm like, oh wow. But this was like, I've got this.
That is amazing. Like, I can just picture that too. I almost wish they would have put something like that in the movie. That would have been hilarious. You in the hat.
With
Well, you
a
can,
salt in it, seasoning
yeah.
it.
Well, they do have a video of it online now. So
They
like
put,
Damien released the audition video about a year or so ago.
So another question.
So
Go ahead, Beth.
I got excited. Sorry. So obviously the makeup didn't affect you because, like you said, you were used to it. But were there any scenes in Terrifier that were a little difficult for you to film, or you had a little trouble with?
The hacksaw scene was difficult, but not really emotionally difficult in that way because I can easily just differentiate fact and fiction. So I'm just like, yeah, this is what we're doing. This is a body, a fake body that we're using that I'm actually cutting apart and stuff like that. So you get past that. It was like that was more difficult. It was actually physically difficult because it's a very dangerous thing we were doing with Catherine because she did have to hang upside down like that for several hours. We would only let her hang upside down for about 30 to 45 seconds at a time because that's dangerous to do to the human body. So we only had those 30 seconds basically to film at a shot. So it was very stressful because we're like, and go, and go, and go. Yeah, so, and it was also very, very cold. It was like 20 degrees that night in that room. So that was no fun either. And, so I was so worried about her because she's in such a vulnerable state and so cold and everything. So that was stressful. I think the other thing that was a little bit awkward for me was the Buffalo Bill scene because I had to overcome a lot of like insecurities about myself because I'm so skinny. And I was like, I was the guy that was always afraid of taking my shirt off at the beach because I was like, oh God, people are going to think ET's at the beach and they're going to, the feds are going to come in and try to do experiments on me or something like that. Like, oh my God, that guy's so pale and skinny. So it's like, and Damien approached me a few days before that scene. He's like, so in the script originally it was written where Art just put the body pieces over his costume and wore them. And Damien's like, I thought of something that's really creepy. I don't know how you're going to respond to it, but I'm going to throw it at you and see what you think. It's like, why don't you do that naked? And I'm like, huh. I'm like, who wants to see me like that? But I really thought about it. I was like, Catherine's really exposing herself in such a vulnerable state for this kill scene, and if she's willing to do that, I can do this. And it would be very creepy if I'm going around like that in that state of undress. So yeah, okay, sure, I'll do that. So that was a very interesting night on set. For one, that was my first night working with Samantha on set. So that was an interesting introduction to her. I come up to her, I'm like, hi, I'm David, and these are my boobs. And she's like, that is freaking awesome. And I'm like, okay, we're going to have fun. Because you never know how someone's going to respond to that. They might be like, what film am I working on now? But she was like, this is
everybody boobs win everybody over. So there you
Oh,
go. You won her over with
they're the
with
breasts.
Your
I had a nipple every time I heard that.
Yeah. So it was that, but I also felt so sorry for our crew that night too, because I'm like, man, those guys did not sign up to see my naked butt all night. But I still tried to keep things lighthearted. I was coming up with different songs or different jokes about butts the whole entire time, and I would sing like "Moon Over Parma" or "Blue Moon" or. So it's like, yeah, anything to keep things light on set, because it's like, yeah, this is kind of creepy, weird stuff we're doing right now. I'm gonna just try to keep the spirit up as much as possible.
Oh my god, that's great.
Yeah.
Speaking of Terrifier and Art and everybody else, if you out of all the kills that you've been able to do in Terrifier, and without giving anything away for Terrifier 2, what would you say is your favorite kill that you've been able to do so far? Is it in T1 or is it possibly going to be in T2?
It's gonna definitely be in T2. I
Okay.
think, yeah. I mean, the hacksaw scene's cool, but that wasn't even my favorite kill personally in Terrifier 1. My favorite one was the decapitation of the exterminator, because first of all, it's a really cool decapitation. It's not just one of those quick slices and the head falls off. He's just sawing away at it and pulls it back like a Pez dispenser and pops it right off. It's like, oh my god. Plus, there's a fun Easter egg because the actor that plays him, Mike Levy, is also the Staten Island clown that started the whole entire scary clown craze back in like 2014. The guy that would stand out in public and as dressed as a clown, freaking people out. So it's just like he was doing it before Wrinkles the Clown was doing it. So it's just like, so I love that. This is a little fun little Easter egg in there. But we have some really, really creative kills in Terrifier 2 that are pretty gruesome. Pretty gruesome. Like, it starts, I think our first kill in the movie would give us an NC-17 rating in the first 5 minutes.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
And that's what I was going to ask, is what do we have to look forward to? More gore, more gruesome scenes? So
yeah, everything in part 2 is bigger, better, ballsier, bloodier, all that. It's oh my god. It's such a fun film. It's just like, but it's we don't hold back on those kill scenes at all. They're pretty gruesome. They are very, very gruesome. I know this one kill scene in particular, it's mean. It's very vicious and just mean. It's like Art's not even really joking around in it. He just full on just destroys somebody. And Damien was editing the footage of it. And he's like, Dave, I'm getting nauseous.
Oh wow.
And for Damien to get nauseous tells me a lot about it. So it's just like, oh my god, it's like you've seen this person in this state of like just screaming and the horrible things that are done to them. He's like, I'm getting nauseous. I'm like, dude, you created this. This is out of your brain, man.
Yeah, we got to watch the teaser trailer when it came out, and like I was telling her, I was blown away because like I'm already excited for it. Like that little bit has me wanting this movie out, and like you had a blowtorch in your hand, man. Like I'm excited for that. I saw that.
I was so excited when you showed that in the trailer because I was like, that's one of the things I've been like, oh, I can't wait to tell people about that. You still don't see what I do with it yet, but oh, that was just so much. That was such a fun day on set for me. It's like my inner kid was going crazy because like I get to fire a flamethrower. I was like, anytime they want to do another take, I'm like, yes, let's do another take, and woo!
Even if it goes perfect, another one.
Oh, I had so much fun. It was like, I could just tell, everybody was having fun with that. Everybody's like, oh, this is like Damon's like, he's just like a little kid on set. I'm like, Damon, you want to shoot this thing, don't you? I was like, yeah, I do. I was like, do it.
That is awesome. And then another question I wanted to ask, and this is like, just like, I don't even know how to say it. A lot of people have been wanting Terrifier merch. Like, obviously, there's places that were selling Terrifier shirts. I'm wearing one of them right now, which unfortunately it's not available anymore.
Yeah.
Is there a chance that we are going to have Terrifier merch? Because, like,
yes, that's something that Damien is setting up as we speak, basically right now. I think they've already have a website that they've already been doing. I think maybe it might be Terrifier Film or something like that. Someone showed me it recently. I didn't even know about it, but they apparently are already starting to sell a few things on there. I think maybe posters or something like that. I don't know, but I think Damien has a plan to start making our own shirts and everything as well. So because he's what because there are so many fan created products out there, unlicensed, and like this is Damien's creation. He deserves to make some money off of it. So that's what he's wanting to do. So we're starting to try to make our own merch right now. I know also Trick or Treat Studios does sell our Halloween costume and the masks. They're about to release, I think, a new mask that's a blood covered mask, which is pretty cool.
Wow.
Yeah. And they're also going to be releasing an action figure of art later on this fall, I think, as well. So it's like they're releasing a bunch of Michael Myers ones, but also an Art the Clown one, which is exciting. I'm just like, oh my gosh.
I'll buy that. I was actually hoping. I'm like, I really want them to make an Art the Clown NECA figure.
Oh, I do too.
NECA's amazing, and just like Trick or Treat, they're amazing. But the moment they do that, it's going up on the shelf because.
Oh my gosh, it's just. They make such good products. I want that. I want a Funko Pop figure too. I'm like,
have you seen all the ones people have been making of you? Like,
oh yeah. Damien actually sometimes makes his own versions of them and sells them at conventions as well. But that takes him a long time. Right now he just doesn't have the time to make those right now. But I'm like, I think especially once Part 2 comes out, there's going to be so many ideas that they can use for Funko Pop figures. So many different characters from the film that you haven't even seen some of the characters yet that are in the film. But I'm like, oh my god, there's definitely going to be they have to make figures of some of these characters or some of the get-ups that Art wears in the film and stuff like that, or some of his weapons. And there's so many possibilities. And then there's Sienna's character, our female protagonist. I'm like, she's. That Valkyrie outfit of hers, I'm like, that lends itself to like Halloween costumes and Funko Pop figures, NECA figures, Trick or Treat Studio figures. There's so many possibilities just with that look itself because it's such a badass look. I love that character. Her character in the film is just fantastic too. She's a very like Ellen Ripley or Sarah Connor type of character, and you see her become that character during the course of the film. So it's just like she's badass, and I because you have to have a character like that can actually go toe to toe with Art. He some of that's just your typical leave me alone running around. No, that's not going to work with Art. That can't take down Art. You have to have someone that has a backbone and is like, okay motherfucker, bring it.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
And I was actually gonna mention her too because she, like, I saw when I was watching that, I was like, oh man, like even that little trailer, like you kind of start seeing it a little bit how she's like first, just okay, but then when you see her have that outfit on, there's just that like slight like the badassery gets turned up a little bit right there. That's like like what's going on? Is Art gonna beat his match?
Oh yeah, and that's what I love of it because she has a great journey in this film. That's like one thing we really focused on was more character development, more plot development in Part 2. And this is more her story than it is Art's story. Don't get me wrong, Art is front and center. He's not going anywhere. He's not just showing up for like 15 minutes of the film and that's it. No, he has a huge presence in this film, so don't worry about that. But it's also equally her film as well. Because you have to set up that character. She's basically the Batman to his Joker. So we have to have her origin story. So this is more her origin story. So now whenever we decide to do a Part 3, hopefully, then we can really go somewhere really cool with the two of those characters. But we're setting everything up right now, and it's just like I love her character. I love the relationship she has with her friends and her brother. I think Damien really outdid himself on this script in a lot of ways with just writing these relationships and writing these characters because they're not one-dimensional characters that you see in a lot of slashers. You don't have you have those certain tropes, like you have one of the friends that's more the party girl and stuff like that, but she has layers to her too, which I like. And it's like this That's what I've been amazed with. Not just Lauren, who plays Sienna, but all the actors in this. They have really brought their A game to these characters and added some depth to them that I did not even expect to see. I was like, oh, wow. Because like when I read the script, I was like, oh, that's cool. But then when I saw what they brought to the characters, like, wow, this one character you think is a total douchebag the whole entire time. You see him in this other scene, it's like, oh, wow, he's got depth to him. That's a really cool character. Oh my gosh, a shame what happens to him. It's like, oh no. But that's what I love. It's like Dana's been really good about writing, dialogue with, how people actually talk and correspond with each other instead of that those tropes like, oh, okay, that you see in a lot of slashers. So
yeah, the typical jock and the head cheerleader, and
yeah.
they really have no anything to them just aside from they're there to be killed.
Yeah, and we didn't want these characters just to be all cannon fodder and that's it. We wanted personality and story involved with them as well.
And that's how it was. Like we were just talking about this not long ago about the rise of Leslie Vernon. How in that movie he goes around showing and like picking this group. He's like, oh yeah, you have to have the stoner, the jock, the whore, and like all these are gonna die, and then you got your survivor girl type thing. And so like just hearing you say it like that too, it's like I mean. I like that. Like character development is what makes movies so awesome, and I'm definitely looking forward to it. I am super excited. I might be as excited. Well, actually, I am. I'm as excited for Terrifier 2 as I am for Halloween Kills, and I just can't wait for that movie. And so like those two are like right there for me. It's like head and head. I'm like.
I love hearing that. It's like as a fan of horror films, I'm excited about Terrifier 2. Not just because I'm in it, but just as a fan because I know this is a film that's just going to be so much fun for people to watch. It's just like it gives you everything you want in one of these type of films. It's just, especially with the kills. Oh my god! Because that's been one of my big problems with the horror films recently. They've been so on kills. They show you the before and they show you the after, but they don't show you what happens in between. And we do.
Speaking of being a fan of scary movies, Beth, go ahead and ask him a certain question if you would.
So what's your favorite scary movie?
Showgirls, definitely.
Yep. Perfect. Perfect. For the win.
No, but I don't really have a ultimate favorite scary movie, but I would say like my top 5 that I usually give are like in no particular order because I think they all have their own merits and they're all different in their own ways, but all equally good in their own ways. And it would be Exorcist, Omen, Original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Halloween, and Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3. But there's so many other ones that are coming so close too, just like the Scream movies. I love the Scream movies so much. I love God, there's so many. I love Saw. I love all those, but it's like those are my top 5.
That is awesome. That is great choices. All of those are great choices, honestly.
But they're all so different.
I think those are all the ones. Your top 5 is the ones that I used to watch nonstop growing up, like repeatedly over and over and over again, especially Dream Warriors.
Yeah. That's the film where it just felt like everything came into place and clicked. Like they finally discovered what they were really doing because the original was so good. Then number 2 was a little bit off. They were trying new things that just might not have worked for some people. But number 3 is like, okay, let's bring back Nancy. Let's do some creative things with these characters and really delve more into the universe. And that's where really just things started to fit into place. Like especially 3 and 4 were both really good films.
I totally agree with that. 4 doesn't get a lot of love, which bugs me, and it just celebrated its birthday not long ago. It's been out for a long time, and I rewatched it, and I underestimate how good.
It's fun. They're fun films. That's the thing. It's like they were scary movies, but they were fun films. They were fun and entertaining to watch.
And I think with Dream Warriors, that's where Freddy finally meshed in the scary with that comedy. That was that was the birth of the Freddy Krueger that everybody now knows and loves was because of Dream Warriors.
Exactly. It's like the first 2 he was more scary. He wasn't joking around as much. And But 3, he really became his own. It was just like now he really stands out.
I totally agree. That is amazing. We got one last question for you, David, and then we'll let you go because I know you're a busy man and you got people to kill. So, the last question I want to ask you, and this is like probably the most serious one. What is one message, if you could give any message to your fans who are watching this, who will be watching in the future, what is one message you would like to leave them?
Wow. I would say 2. One's more serious though. The first one I would just say big thank you. Just very big thank you from all of us on Team Terrifiers. Is the fans that have made this film a success. It's that we literally would not be making Terrifier 2 if it were not for fans, especially with the Indiegogo campaign that we ran last year, because we made 4 times as much as we originally asked for, and that we didn't understand how much this movie was going to cost us to make, so that money actually, we could not do what we're doing in this new movie without that. It's like we used every dime of that. It was like, oh wow, these movies are expensive. So thank you for that, and thank you for spreading the word about Terrifier. That's what made success, because we don't have a big, huge Hollywood, publicity type situation where we have people paying for advertisements everywhere on different entertainment sites and whatnot. So it's like it was the word of mouth of horror fans. It's been podcasts, like it's been the horror websites reporting about the movie that made us big and that got us on Netflix to begin with, which unfortunately our contract expires at the end of the month. So but
So
that was
everybody needs to go watch it as much as
Go
possible
watch
before
it.
it gets turned
Yeah,
off.
go buy it too. Go buy
It's
it.
worth the buy.
Yeah, yeah. So thank you there. But another message I would say is like the message I learned from my mom was like, go do what you want to do with your life. Life is way too short not to live the life you want to live, as long as it's in a healthy way. So go out there and pursue your dreams, pursue what your passions, and do what makes you happy. And it might take a while for it to happen. Especially in this career that I'm in, it's all about persistence. But if it's something you genuinely care about doing, do it.
That is a great message to leave for everybody. I definitely respect that. Your mother is a wise woman, so that's great knowledge to have. With that said, everybody, we are going to wrap it up. Like I said, he has people to kill, and I have to edit and get everything ready. um, for the Horror Fiend, I'm Jeff.
I'm Bethany.
That was David. You guys have a great day. We will see you on the next one, and goodbye.